Ready? Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Welcome to the Bear Pit. I'd like to acknowledge that Fort Nelson is in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dunaza, the Cree, and the Dene people of the Fort Nelson and the Prophet River First Nation. I'd like to acknowledge our joint treaty and the rights within that treaty. As well, I'd like to acknowledge all of the cultures within our region. It makes us very diverse, and it makes us better. So please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. I have one addition to tonight's agenda, and that is the addition we got from BC Hydro on the EV charging station. I will add that at the report, which is at 9.2. I think you all have a copy of that, had an opportunity to read it. That's all the additions that I have. Are there any other additions? Councillor Andrews?
I have saved the date for the fallen firefighters memorial.
Okay. Correspondence? Let's put that correspondence for discussion at 10.6. Are there any other additions, council? Staff? No, Mayor. Thank you. Okay, we're at the public comment period. This is an opportunity for any members of the public who are in attendance or who are online to comment on anything that's on tonight's agenda. We do have a speaker's table if anybody's interested to take a moment and speak to council about anything that's on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody online that's looking to speak? No? Is there anybody in the gallery that's looking to speak? Okay, thank you. Adoption of the agenda is in order, please. Moved by Councillor Growing, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor of adopting the agenda as it's been changed? Thank you. That passes. There are two sets of minutes. The Regional Council meeting of August the 14th, 2023, and the Committee of the Whole, August the 10th, 2023 for adoption. Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Roper. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That passes. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Council? Questions, business? Seeing none, staff, is there any business? No, Mayor. All right, that brings us all the way down to proclamations at 7.1. And I am very happy to be able to proclaim Literacy Month. I will read the proclamation before I sign it. Whereas literacy is a fundamental skill that empowers individuals, enhances personal and social growth, and contributes to the overall development of a strong and prosperous community. And whereas the Fort Nelson Community Literacy Society has been tirelessly dedicated to promoting literacy and education within our community, providing valuable programs and initiatives that inspire a love for reading, lifelong learning, and digital literacy. And whereas Literacy Month serves as an opportunity to raise awareness about the importance of literacy, celebrate the achievements of learners, educators, and volunteers, and encourage greater engagement with literacy-focused activities. And whereas a literate community is a resilient and empowered community fostering innovation, critical thinking, and active participation in civic life. I, Rob Fraser, the Mayor of the Northern Rockies Region Municipality, do hereby proclaim the month of September as Literacy Month. I call upon all citizens, educational institutions, businesses, community organizations, and residents to support and participate in literacy-related initiatives and to recognize the vital role that literacy plays in shaping the future of our community. I'm happy to sign that. I know that the Literacy Society is going to be very active in September with respect to different things that they're doing. Who would like to receive this on behalf of the Literacy Society? Sure. Would you like to go out there where there's more room against the wall and stand, or behind the flags? Perfect. This is our copy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. That was very nice. That brings us to delegations on the agenda, 8.1, and I am happy that we have Shelley Whiting and Chris Arellano. Is that right? Is that close enough? It's close enough. From Harm Reduction Northern Health Authority, here to speak to us. So come on up to here if you like. Okay. You just have to turn the mic on. There you go.
Hi,
Welcome.
my name's Shelley Whiting. This is Chris Arellano.
Eliana,
Arellano,
thank you.
and I work for Northern Health. He works for Friendship Center. On behalf of Northern Health and the Friendship Center together, we are hoping to. We're launching a project of harm reduction van. We're calling it the community outreach, as well as we will have this wellness machine, which is actually a vending machine, and it will contain no drugs. It just supplies for the people that are already using. Our goal is we want people to use new, unbroken, clean products so that they don't spread disease and stay safe. Take it away.
Okay.
So like,
You're doing fine. And you guys can sit down. It's fine. Thank you very much. Be relaxed, please.
We have samples of what we are going to have on board. You could explain this? You want me to? Oh, okay.
So like Shelley said, we've been working on this project for several months now. And we want to, present this before you for your support before we go full throttle on it. So we have this, what we call the wellness project, which consists of 2 units, the wellness machine and the outreach van. So the wellness machine is basically a dispensing unit that we got retrofitted and is currently being retrofitted right now to accommodate the products that we want to dispense to it. So the products are here. Yes, please. So the dispensing unit will provide wellness products. That's what we call it, Port Nelson residents, and it's available 24/7. And it will be placed in the within the Friendship Center's vicinity and can be accessed through tokens. The tokens will be distributed through the Friendship Center and health unit. Next slide, please. So the self-care items, as what we call them, will be for the people of Fort Nelson who can even afford to buy these products for self-care. And this consists of feminine products like your pads and tampons, bath essentials, bath soaps, and conditioners, shampoos, and they will come in bundles as what we have here for sample. We've sampled them out last Friday or
Friday.
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday, sorry.
Yeah, our event for overdose awareness. And we have dental hygiene kits, which consists of a toothpaste, toothbrush, and mouthwash. And during the summer season, we have sunblock lotions available for people, mosquito repellents, energy bars, electrolyte drinks. And in the winter season, we will hand out socks, gloves, toques, hand cream, and lip balm. And in addition to that, we also have other supplies. So these are for the people who use substances to keep them safe while they are on their substances until they're ready to change their risky behaviors. So yeah, condoms and lubes is included. That is to to prevent the spread of STIs, as we have heard recently that we are being, we have so much
Syphilis is-
cases
is
already.
terrible in the Northwest Territories right now. So, yeah. And Hep C on the prairies, which we think is contributed by the using crack with the pipe, their glass, and they break and they cut their lips and then they share. So our goal is that everybody will use a fresh one of their own, and that we actually already hand them out in town at the health unit and at the Friendship Center. But our goal is to be on the road and go to where they are so that more people are accessed, and we're hoping it'll make a difference.
Yeah, we discourage people to reuse their paraphernalia, and we discourage them to share it with their peers. That's why we're doing this kind of distribution. We also have fentanyl test strips. So these strips, can be used to
Test their drugs.
test your substances for fentanyl content. And as we know, and you might know already, that fentanyl is still the #1, leading cause of drug overdose in Canada. Next slide, please. We also have naloxone kits.
And they're available to anyone that wants them, and we will demonstrate how to use them.
But that one will not come through the vending machine. That's we need
We need
people to be trained before they can get this kit. So that will be distributed, personally, in person. And last, we have HIV self-test kits, which is highly reliable and has a over 99% accuracy rate.
At this point, we don't know how much TB we have in town. We don't know how much HIV we have in town, because unless you go to the doctor with a symptom, they're not testing. So if you're a user, you can we can start the process, is what we can do. If they get a positive, then we follow up, they go to the doctor, and then from there, treatment is started.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no cure yet for HIV, but there's treatment. So when you control the HIV virus in your blood, you can spread it to other people anymore through sex.
Our goal is a lot of teaching side of it, so that we will teach them. And if they want treatment, we can show them where to go to get it. We can put them in touch with what they need. We at no point will be giving out any drugs ever in either the vending machine or the van. This is just all safe use. We're trying to keep the community healthy. And we know that more and more people are moving into the community with drug habits, and it's our goal is to kind of guide them into safe use, and so that we're not finding like piles of needles anywhere or things like that. If we're to talk to them and to teach them and to help them with just day-to-day life, and try to keep them safe and keep our people around them safe at the same time.
So the outreach van, next slide, please, will be the mobile version of the dispensing unit, plus one-on-one harm reduction services. It will be manned by a team, and that includes me, Shelley, and a peer support worker. And the van will cruise along the streets of Port Nelson and neighboring communities, including FNFN and Prophet River, to deliver wellness supplies and services, mostly during after hours. Next slide, please. Like I said, on board will be a harm reduction nurse, and that's Shelley. I'm the coordinator, and there will be a peer support worker, which we recently hired already. The services included, aside from giving out those supplies and harm reduction or those kits, we also do coaching to provide education to those users and keep them safe. Peer support by our peer support worker. We provide naloxone training, HIV screening and Hep C screening, fentanyl testing, and last but not the least, and I think the most important service that we're going to provide is referral and activity. We're trying to be the gateway here to other services, according to what those people will need. Like in the Friendship Center, for example, we have a lot of services and programs that cater to specific needs of people. Like for the jobless, we have a job coordinator, which they can contact, and for job opportunities, we have legal advocate for homeless and those suffering from financial issues. We have the food bank. We have what else? We have violence against women program for women and children fleeing violence and abuse. And we have the women's outreach for other issues with women. And of course, we have Northern Health here for other health services, and Shelley here is running the Oat Clinic every last Tuesday of the month for for treating opioid addictions. Okay. Next slide, please. So the routes and stops, this will change according to need, but so far these are the possible routes and stops we came up so far. Like I said, the van will have like a 3-day run each week. Mostly after hours. We'll start from 2 p.m. up to 9 p.m. And on Tuesdays, we will start by the Valley View Drive and have a stop for like 45 minutes and drive through Parker Lake going to the First Nations area to join them in their wellness dinner. And then we will park by Klahani Trailer Park before heading home in Port Nelson. Next slide, please. Then on Thursdays, most of our operation will be in traffic review. As we know, we need like 2 hours to go just back and forth. And after that, we still have an hour to go around town. And every last Thursday of the month, we will be having this peer support group meeting. We will call it Fire Talk. And we will advertise it soon as we're just, we're in the finishing touches of what we have to do with that, meeting. And that will be just to provide a safe space for everyone dealing with addictions, whether current, whether recovering or recovered. It's a place for them to connect with their peers and of course to connect with us, the team. And on Fridays, these are our stops. It will be mainly here in town, and we'll start by the Airport Connector Road at 215. We'll go by the East Sub, with the South Ridge Trailer Park. Next slide, please. By the BC Liquor Store, by the Cannabis Store, by the apartment parking lot at Sunset Drive, and Woodlands Liquor Store. So with this, we're really trying to be of service and to help the people of Fort Nelson be safer, and like Shelly said, rest assured, we will not be handing out substances of any kind. We're just here to help and hope we can have your support on this so we can do our jobs better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sally. Very, very good presentation on what you hope to achieve. I've got a few questions, but does council have any questions? Please.
Can you tell me what arrangements you've made at the vending machine for waste disposal? Because I'm sure that supplies could be used right away, and I'm sure none of us want it littered either at the Friendship Center where the vending machine is or down that street. So
There'll be Sharps containers right at the site, and then we'll have these Sharps containers in the vending machine. And they can turn them in to the Friendship Center or the hospital or at the health unit.
help unit. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And we put Sharps containers around town. So I think there's 5 different Sharps containers around town for people that are using. So
Thanks.
It's such a good idea that you put it in the vending machine, right? Because they if they want to use safely and they're starting to understand that process of using safely, then they'll get that. But where would they go get one, right? Where would they would think to go get one? But now that you put them in the vending machine, it gives them that ability to.
And
To
we
have
will
a
let them
safe
know
place.
where the Sharps containers are around
Yeah.
town. And also the places we picked now on our route, we're just gonna sample with those and see and talk to the people that are coming and just see where do you think we need to be. And then we'll get a set one once we kind of have it nailed down, but everything's right now new, so we don't. It's up for like, if we don't need it at Valley View Drive, well then we'll go to where they are. Where we need to be.
Councilor Roper.
Just curious, is this a short-term project or do you see it extending far into the future?
Long term, I'm thinking, yeah, it's not going anywhere. The problem is not going anywhere, so.
Other comments?
I
Questions?
was wondering on the tokens, like how do they know where to get the tokens?
We'll have little signs up around town so that they'll know where to go. When everything's new, everything's gonna have to be, we'll make little banners and stuff so that they know to begin with, and word of mouth.
And we have a Facebook account for immigration that I run. So, yeah, we'll advertise it.
So along those lines, I had a question about eligibility. So who's eligible and like, do you know who the users are or do you,
We know,
how?
we know some, but a lot of users have someone else pick up their supplies. So we're not gonna know everybody because they can be, dementia. They can be.
You're not that old yet.
Oh, but I am. They have their right to their privacy too, so we're not gonna keep lists or anything,
Right.
but we will know after a while who's who. We already know a few and
I was thinking more from the lines of eligibility. Who's eligible? Like if they walk through the door,
Anybody
is there
that-
criteria they have? There must be some criteria or do they have to be diagnosed? Do they have to?
No.
No? They just
Yeah,
have
they
to
just
come
have
in
to
and
come in,
ask.
yeah.
And you get the token and then you use the token for whatever you choose
Yeah.
to use it for. Okay, good. Is there any other questions? So I wanted to ask a little bit about, how the van is that by appointment or, but I think your routes and stops sort of answered that question for me, except where you said that you'll just be cruising around town. I mean, so what?
We'll be going from stop to stop and we'll sit there for a few minutes and, our people that are coming already, we will let them know where we're gonna be and we have a peer support worker that we will let them know to let their people know where we're gonna be, like our routes.
Right.
Until we kind of establish where we need to be.
Right, so it's really not by appointment, it's just really word of
Yeah.
mouth and if somebody comes out to you, you deal with them.
We didn't know where to start, so we just picked some spots. We wanted to kind of cover a big area. And then we'll narrow it down to, okay, where do we really need to be?
Right.
So,
Good. So are there any other communities, because I'm sure this is a province-wide program, right? So is there any negative experience from the perspective of now that people are able to get some of these products that we see an increase in use in communities? Like, is there any history or?
no, people aren't starting because they have these things in community. They're already there and it's kind of in the underground and like Terrace has been going for 16 years. And they had 2 vans going. Like it's huge everywhere. I know I'm from Salmon Arm. There's like 15 rehab houses in Salmon Arm. 15.
Wow.
And it's mostly young adults that are there. Their parents are paying their way. It's really expensive to get into rehab. It's really hard to get into rehab. And hopefully we can be the first people to let them know, like, if you're interested, we'll see what we can do to help. you,
Start
like,
them on the
yeah,
path, yeah.
get you
Okay.
going.
So you asked for support. So is there a particular ask that you have for us, or is it just general support you're looking for in the community?
Support, I guess they've been fighting with the vans, that if the actual community supports them, they have better luck. Cause it's a tough job for the people that are running the van. Usually they go through quite a few people, but we're not quite where other communities are yet. So I'm thinking we're gonna have it a little easier. It's a hard job. And we have, like, we've had some overdoses and we've been very lucky here.
Yeah.
Fort St. John's not so lucky. Everything kind of sweeps through. Right now, there's a hotline you can on your phone that they let you know every day, what drugs are happening where. And then as Lee Cook is
There's
teaching
also an
about
app.
the lifeguard app. And that's another thing that users can, they have to phone in and they let them know what they're using and their address. And then they have so many minutes. And if they don't contact them again before the buzzer goes off, they send help out to them. Like they give them so much time. And if they haven't come back to them and said, I'm okay, then they send help out. But so far that in 3 years, it saved 77 lives. So that start, but so there's lots of initiatives out there. It's just getting everything up and rolling is the tough part.
I suspect there will be some resistance. I mean, there is whenever we're talking about in society, assisting users in any way, right? I think anybody who's thought about this or who has family members that are in this situation recognize the help that you're giving and other people are giving, but there are many others who just aren't there yet, and so there'll be some resistance, I'm sure. But I'm
Just don't ever think it can't happen to your family. 'Cause it can happen
no
to
for sure.
anyone's family.
Yeah, and so I'm certainly prepared to, to educate anybody that I hear talking, negative about this, and I can support you that way. Are there stats that get kept, or like, I'm not looking for names or anything like that, but to sort of get a grasp on the situation in the community, is there a report at the end of each year so that you can see that it's getting better or worse?
In our community, I don't think there is.
Well,
yet.
that comes out of this program. Not sure.
And I will, after we've been doing this for a year, we'll have some idea of numbers.
Yeah.
Just by what we're going through and just word of mouth and stuff, but we
Yeah.
are not gonna take names and that, because as soon as you ask them for their names,
Yeah.
that they're not coming back.
Yeah, of course.
But we will have some idea, I think, of how many people are in community and a rough idea anyway, and more than we know now.
Yeah,
So-
well, understanding what your population looks like give you the ability to tailor your program to help.
Mhm.
Right? So,
And we're gonna have, just by people that are moving to town, and that there's so much mental health in that moving to town now, that we're gonna need supports in this town, like we're not ready for what's coming here, because I was just saying earlier that, like, if someone comes into the hospital, either a psychosis from drugs or just a mental health thing, they sit in our mental health room. And once they've been there for a few days, like, of course, we're on the phone, we're trying to get them sent to Dawson Creek. But once we've had them for a few days, which usually we can't get them out right away because they're full down there, like they're bursting at their seams too. We can't get them out. Once we've had them for 3 or 4 days, they're considered stable, and then they won't take them.
Mhm.
So, like, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I can't see that improving.
Systems working against itself.
Yeah.
It's done in its own way.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Chris, Shelley, thank you very much for coming and presenting to us tonight, and I'm looking forward to support you where we can.
Thank you so much.
Great job. When all those people left. Okay. So that brings us to 9.1, the committee of the whole report, number 1323, which was deferred from the committee of the whole report to this council meeting. Discussion about Bear Smart community status, waste management, and bylaw enforcement for discussion. Staff, like to start us off.
Sean, I want to speak to this, Mayor.
Thank you, Sean.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The report before you today is centered around discussion of opportunities to assist the NRM in becoming a Bear Smart community, primarily related to bylaw enforcement and waste management. We're hoping to discuss opportunities to improve on both areas under guidance from Council and potentially bring back information if needed for further consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions Council or Mayor may have on the report. Something that wasn't in the report that just came to light last week, excuse me, was that the NRM has been successful in the application for a grant for the replacement of some fruit trees. So I believe the Public Works is in the process of procuring 60 maple trees to potentially replace some of the fruit trees along the walking trail at the water treatment plant area. Just to kind of take care of our own misdoings first before we move forward with any other processes. So, yes, if there's any questions or comments or anything on the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
The fruit trees, where are you gonna put the fruit trees?
Well, that's yet to be decided. That hasn't been clarified. I'm pretty sure we're probably not going to plant them in another place, but
Well, then you need to contact some farmers and see if the farmers want to plant them something.
Yeah, it would be a shame to see them go to waste if, yeah, if you can actually move them, if you can get a tree spade big enough to move.
If they're adult trees, it's hard to move them, but almost all of them have suckers that are growing up around them and you think sucker, anyway.
Yep, thank you.
Other comments? Sure.
Well,
Councillor Garrett.
I think it's important that we continue our path to becoming a bear smart community, but I don't think that that's the be all and end all. I would like to see us commit further capacity, both financial and human capacity, in working to solve our issues. Some people see it as an issue and some people don't, but to mitigate bears walking through and staying around our community at noon or 1, or those times where we have kids going to school or people out walking their dogs. I don't know that the Bear Smart program is going to help us with that. I would very much support continuing along the path for a Bear Smart community, but I don't want us to stop there. I want us to continue to work towards solving problems of having so many bears in our community throughout the summer season. That's not only fall anymore, started right in May this year. So that's how I feel about it.
Councilor Roper. I agree 100%, Councilor Grooming. I think this is just a step along the way to achieving our goal, which would be to have no bears in the community for any amount of time. I think we should, if we're looking at it from a policy perspective, that would be a policy that we could work up from, is have a policy that if a bear comes in the community, it needs to go one way or the other. And then we figure out how to do that. So, I don't want to see ourselves in a situation where we put these bylaws in place and then we're just fining people and fighting with our residents. I'd like to see something actionable where we're actually doing something and mitigating any conflict at all, whether it be with bylaws or with bears.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You all know my opinion of garbage bears. But what I would like to see is some sort of data on, I think it's like Whistler, maybe Tofino, that they're already considered bear smart communities. And when they implemented their bear proof waste management and all the criteria that makes you a bear smart community, what benefit did they see and how long did it take? Because I think being a bear smart community and education awareness is everything, especially in the school. I think it works, but what does it cost? And is it effective? And does it take 10 years or does it take 5 years? But yeah, I think it's a good idea to be a bear smart community, but we do live in the north.
I have much stronger opinions, I think. I guess I'm not surprised. I agree that the Bear Smart program from an educational perspective is a good thing for the community. I think the more that, we live in bear country, there's no doubt about it. This is proving it. The more people are aware about bears, the better off we are as a community from inadvertent contact, I guess. But as a safety professional and the way I look at risk and the way we professionally look at risk, it's exposure times consequence. And although there hasn't been a consequence, a negative consequence directly in town, the potential for that consequence is there. And it's a very high consequence in the event that there's extreme a negative interaction between wildlife and somebody in the community. And then on the other side of that is the exposure element of risk, right? You can have a hole in the ground that's 10 feet deep. That's a hazard. But if nobody ever has to get in it, there's very minimal risk. In this particular case, we seem to be seeing more and more and more bears. And certainly from the statistics that were presented to us at the last meeting, if it's not going up, it's not going down either. It's pretty consistent with respect to that. What does this community look like in 10 years as sows start educating their cubs that this is a place where they can come and they can feed? You know, the CO's response to that is that if we eliminate attractants in the community, somehow that will change things. It's really, that's a symptom of the bigger problem, which is, well, that's not a problem, a fact that there's a very high population of bears in this particular area of the province. And, you know, I read through the bear hazard assessment, and I read through the bear, the plan, and I really didn't see any commitment. And I think you said it at the last meeting when you said we all need to know what our roles are. Both those documents are very one-sided with respect to what our role is. But I don't see anybody else committing, and it's a question I ask the COs, if we were to implement this and become bear smart, how will things change from their perspective with respect to how they deal with bears? And I didn't get an answer. So I don't see that there's an end game here from anybody. And so the bears will continue to come to the community. And it's not just the fact that we're being fed. One of the first things they teach you about sows and their cubs is that they're very, very dangerous out there. What's the difference between out there and in here? So this concept that we should be coexisting with bears, that somehow bears are only just traveling through here, that this is not bear habitat. My mind was changed in that when I looked at that report that shows all these areas and these travel corridors which are deemed protected by that. I don't know what that means. Protected travel corridors through the community. What does that mean? You know, when you read it with a critical eye, you start to realize just how one-sided that report and that document is, and the expectations that people in this community will change the way they live and use their own personal property because there are people out there that say bears have to coexist with us in our community. So I fundamentally disagree. I think we should continue to fund the program. I think, but I'm not prepared to start putting a bunch of money into bylaw enforcement until we start dealing with the root of the problem. And to me, the root of the problem is the numbers of bears that have the ability to come around the community. And so I'm a believer, and I'll put it out there, even though I know I get arched eyebrows and looks at me sometime. But I'm a believer that we need to keep the bears out of the community in the first place. This community needs to be fenced. And I believe that if we combine the Fire Smart program with the Bear Smart, we can build a fire perimeter around the community. And in that, we should be able to fence it, similar to what we've got at the airport. And and I've heard people when I talk to people about this, they look at me, look what they did at the Hot Springs. That's terrible. That fence is like in your face all the time when you're there. It's like it's a horrible feel. But if you look at the size of the community and the ability, we can put this fence. You know, we could probably find a route for both the Fire Smart corridor as well as a fence in that Fire Smart corridor. So where the only place that people are seeing is where it comes out. Right. So That's the other thing I got. Well, you can't gate, how are you gonna gate the Alaska Highway to keep that? Well, you don't gate the Alaska. But there's really only 4 entrances into our community. There's the Alaska Highway in, the Alaska Highway out, the Airport Road, and McConaughey Creek Road going out to Simpson Trail. Those are really the only 4 that you need to deal with. And that's where you put your bear traps. And so if you only have wild bears coming to your fence, right? Because once you put the fence up, you get rid of all the bears from inside. You only have wild bears coming to the fence. The wild bears come to the fence and maybe they follow it along for a little ways, don't get any satisfaction and go away. Or maybe they follow it all the way to a road where there's an entrance. That's where you put your traps. A wild bear, if it's trapped, has a negative experience without any positive reinforcement, because it's wild and the first place that it comes to, is that trap. Now you can relocate that bear, and it seems to me from everything I've read and heard is that there's a negative experience, they won't come back. But a bear that's in the community that's already experienced the reward of the calorie reward from whatever it's from, is coming back. And even that report even says that the bears, they relocate them and they come back. And they'll travel long distances to come back because they're conditioned. I think that's the word that it uses, right? Conditioned. So to me, the root of the problem is to keep them out of the community in the first place. Then you hire bylaw enforcement officers to deal with the traps. And hopefully we're working with the conservation officer service if they can't deal with the traps at that particular, because we're dealing with wild bears at that time, not conditioned bears. And hopefully they'll be able to deal with that. Hopefully they're few and far between. And over time, the bears start to realize that the community is not a place where there's any reward or satisfaction. And so they don't come. And the odd bear that gets past the traps, and I think they'd be significantly less than the bears that are not. The odd bear that gets past the trap, you ask the CO service to deal with it. Okay. So that's my first cut at trying to deal with the root problem. And there's all kinds around cost, political, where does the fence go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at least it's an idea that potentially helps us to solve the bear problem. Councilor Anderson.
The work we've put in as a municipality has been a lot. And from the information and conversations we've had with the CO service, it seems like they don't have the manpower to put in the effort that we have. I feel we've been putting in a lot more and we're still ending up with the same result. We get told that they don't want conditioned bears. We got to get rid of the attractants, and we're doing what we can. And I think we can do more, but what's the point in doing more when we have 2 COs covering 10% of the province, and then they're not always fully staffed. Our biggest problem time is in the fall with bears, which is also hunting season, where they're supposed to be taking care of the rest of our area, watching for poachers, making sure everyone's hunting appropriately. We get told that they won't terminate bears, but just last month, 21 were terminated in Prince George. They have a bear program. They have I don't know if it's a bear smart program, but you go on their website and they've got bear programs, mitigations, educations, everything there is. We don't have the support I think we need from the CO service. So we can venture down as far as we want to be as safe as we can, but if we're not getting the support for the habituated bears, there's not much of a program we can do to fix this. I called the CO service many times this year for bears. There's one guy, he's got a wounded back foot. I thought he was wounded. That's a dangerous bear to have in your area. I've got kids. They tell me, oh, he's been around for 5 years. It's good to see that he's still alive. Thanks for letting us know. That's the response I got from the COs, not, oh, this guy's coming around for 5 years. He's habituated. He's a problem. It's, oh, we're glad he's there. We can keep tabs on him. There's an issue with the CO services, and I don't see I wouldn't want our council to go spend a bunch more money when we don't have the support there.
The problem is getting, well, I don't know if the problem is getting bigger and bigger. The statistics that we see show that it's more or less constant, but the concern in the community is getting bigger. I'm hearing from more and more people, it was pointed out to me, there was quite a on social media, there was quite a series of posts on social media. And I had an opportunity to to get with the lady who started that. And, you know, we had a very good conversation about bears in general and her fears that, you know, for her child to walk to school, and it's just up the street. Carlson's just up the street from where she lives. And I asked her, how many of your friends feel the same way? Because we're getting this statistic that the community is split 50-50. She said, none of my friends believe that we should coexist with bears. All her friends think the same way that she is. We need to be doing something more than we have been doing. This is not our responsibility. Like, I think I said it before. When did local government be responsible for public safety with respect to wildlife in the province? It's not a local government. It's ours by default. We're dealing with this because there's a feeling that the COs are not doing their job. And so, go ahead.
I just want to be careful that we're, like, when we're saying those inflammatory comments that the COs are not doing their job, I just want to be careful because I don't know that that accurately depicts it. I think maybe that's a feeling that we have, but you know, they're under their guidelines too as to what they can do and what they can't do. And I think they made it very clear at our last meeting that this is what they are going to do. And if we want a higher level of service than that, then we have got to do it ourselves. And myself, this is my third term on council and my third term trying to address the bear conflict issues in our community. So when I hear that we are going to try to negotiate with the COs for a different level of service, I think that that is just leading us down that path where we have been and it hasn't worked. And so I don't want to spend more money either, but I feel that it would be a good investment to ensure the quality of life for our residents. And I think we're at the point now where we have got to do something, and whether that is because we're not even finding people for not appropriately taking care of the garbage. Like, I think we can all agree that everybody has a responsibility to take care of their garbage appropriately, like just that as a basic level, right? Like, and we're not finding people. I think that that's a good step. So, but I think that maybe your fence is a good idea, maybe it's not, I don't know. But if we're not talking about it and we're not making plans, then we're just gonna keep spinning our wheels, and it's year after year after year is the same thing. So I guess maybe council needs to decide whether you want to continue on the path to be a bear smart community. And if so, I think we all agree that that's not going to solve our problems. So then what are the next steps? Like, how does council feel? Do they want to dedicate some resources to come up with a community engagement plan? Or maybe we feel that we know what the community is feeling, and so maybe we can go the next step to what are some concrete actions that we can take to address bears in our community morning, noon, and night.
So let me follow a process or describe a process. A garbage can comes out beside the street at certain hours of the day and is picked up a little while later, and then it's the responsibility of the person who has the garbage can to put it away when they're done. So it's not as though they're sitting out there 24/7. They're actually, this is garbage day. I mean, and of course we heard that from the COs and so on, that the bear knows when garbage day is, or which area in town is the garbage is out on any given day of the week. I think that the efforts to, like, there's been some efforts on in the private sector there. The company who's been washing bins for people, they actually haven't had any of their bins disturbed by the bears, according to them. They haven't at all. And I was thinking of that from a private point of view. We're responsible to look after our bin. Couldn't we be responsible for washing our bins? Okay, so look, how long does it take with a garden hose and and then your bin is rinsed out so it doesn't carry the attracting, the ripe smell of spoiled things. I think that's great, except I don't think it will solve the problem either, but I think it's a good measure to manage. I took exception to, but I didn't raise my hackles much when I described that if we plant crops for bears elsewhere, that when we were told that there's no statistics on that, what nonsense. That's nonsense. If there's lots of berries in the bush, we don't have this problem with bears coming in the top. If so, if there's not berries, give them fruit. And here we are tearing out our own fruit trees. Okay, let's move them. That's why it matters to me. Like, think about where they could go or where a food source could go that we intentionally put as an attractant to keep them away from the sources here. I think the combination works. These are all passive things, though. These are passive. I agree. And I lived in this, right? I used to live in town. The farmer in me suffered greatly, but I lived in town for a few years. And in that era, bears came and went too. They really did come and go. But any bear that showed an interest in the garbage cans or an interest in people's fruit trees, and that the bear was taken away, not the fruit tree nor the garbage can. And it actually worked just fine. And the thing is that it was a much more aggressive tactic that was taken, a more direct approach that was taken at that time. And guess what? We didn't decimate the bear population. There's still lots of bears, isn't there? I am in agreement that we could find we as council can decide whether or not we want bears to wander freely in our community. We can decide that. It's for us to decide. So if we decide that we don't want that, I think that we should make it clear how we don't have all the tools. We don't exactly, it's not as though we have what are we going to, instead of hiring a bylaw officer, let's hire a hunter. Like, how do you deal with that? I realize there's more discussion, but we can say we're not okay with bears walking around on our streets. Can do.
I also agree with that. And I like the idea of public engagement. And, you know, we've been criticized for not having some sort of public meeting, you know, since 2019. I think maybe that is a start. I think there are people who are prepared to come to a meeting like that and voice their concerns or their issues or their thoughts and ideas. And I think perhaps getting that out there and just then getting a feel from people. I mean, we all talk to our friends and the people that we talk to. We each will have a group that have, and I suspect that we're probably in a pretty same place, most of us, but we need to have this meeting, I think, because they've asked for it, the CO service as well as the Bear Smart folks. So I think we have this meeting and from there, we either start doubling down on some of these efforts. I like some ideas that you talked about, you know, perhaps we get something to help contain these containers. We talk to people, you know, about, I think the statistic was there's only 5% of people out there that can't keep their garbage inside. I suspect it's considerably higher than that, but we start talking to people about that particular thing. We bring back the bylaw and we start looking at that bylaw with a very critical eye from the perspective of what we want to see or not see in the community. We can say we don't want to see a single bear in our community, but who's going to make it happen, right? Who's going to make it happen?
But I think we've been relying on the CO service, and they made it clear that the level of service that some of us in the community are expecting is they're not able to provide. So there's other experts out there. And that's why I started off by saying that I think the Bear Smart community is a good goal, but I think that we need to commit financial and human capacity to helping us deliver a greater plan of which community engagement would be. And I'm sure retrofitting some garbage cans, like the list is endless of what we can do, right? But I think we need a professional to help guide us because we can, you have your opinion about the fence and Counselor Souls has his opinion of the fruit trees and both of which, some people kind of maybe scoffed at, but that's not to say that it's not a good idea, right? We need input from professionals that can help us to guide us to make those plans that it's going to be successful. Like what outcome do we want to see? I think we're all agreed that we don't want the bears roaming our streets morning, noon and night. And I think we all have experiences where that has happened right from May this year. I brought it up right at the beginning of May that the bears were already out and about. So that's what I would like to see. I think we all have ideas here, but without that professional, I don't think that the COs can be those professionals for us, just because of their mandate is different than what our expectations are.
Yeah, it's a conundrum. With respect to this report and increased bylaw enforcement, I don't want to get out there and enforce a bylaw that I don't believe is very good from a compliance perspective. I think it should be focused more on the garbage. I agree with that. And less on the attractants. As far as I'm concerned, they just threw it in our face and made it our responsibility that because we have a bylaw, we're responsible for it now. So I'd like to go through that as part of either as part of the public engagement or as on our own after the public engagement. We've got 2 months left, I guess, of bears in the community till they start their hibernation cycle. So I know we're awful busy in September, but I'd like to see us have some kind of a community gathering where we can get people out sometime in October to make that happen. If we can, I don't know specifically what that looks like. I don't want to see a town hall meeting where we're on stage and people are throwing eggs at each other. At more of an open forum type, what do they call them? Something cafe or something like that, where people can, like we did with the budget, essentially. And I think there will be more people come out for this than came out for the budget. I sure hope so. Anyway. Yeah, so that we can really start to, because it behooves us then to be there and really start asking some pointed questions of people, right? Really start trying to drive into it as a council with our public to find out what people are thinking. Try to throw some ideas out there and get ideas from the people that are out there. From that, come back, have a look at that bylaw, and then move forward with some kind of public engagement. And by then, maybe I don't know who these professionals are out there, but maybe there's people in Banff or Jasper, or there's biologists or something out there that might be able to help us move past what the Conservation Service is prepared to help us with. Anyways, give us an idea that some of these ideas that we might come up with, whether there's any scientific merit to them.
So do we need to have like a resolution from council that would help staff to be clear on what expectations are from this discussion? Or because what I'm hearing is making arrangements for some kind of a public engagement. And then I would very much like staff to be doing some research on like what professionals are out there that could possibly help us, but I don't know that the rest of council feels the same. So I don't know that staff would be clear in the direction that we're giving them tonight.
Yeah. So I'll ask staff to give us an idea you've heard, I think you've heard that we want to engage the public. I think that's the first thing. So what are your thoughts with respect to how long it might take? What sort of staff commitment, you might need to put to it, whether or not we need to change priorities in order to make this happen? What are your thoughts?
I guess the first question I would ask council is this in addition to what's already in the works with the committee? Because the committee being the staff committee with WildSafe BC and the CO service is currently planning that. And we're hoping for probably end of September into October. similar type of thing. It's looked at possibly at the community hall meeting. Yeah, a meeting where the public's able to come in, engage, provide their feedback. And council will be there to, if, again, that was the intent anyway, the hope, to chat with the public, to get that feedback and then engage with the community to get the feel. So that's currently in the works as part of that program. I guess the question is council looking for something in addition to that? Or is that?
So I'm not looking for something in it. I'm not looking for anything in addition to that. If that's moving forward, that's,
Yeah.
we can become part of that.
Okay, perfect. So that's, I don't know,
about
when
the
we
rest
met
of
last
council.
week, it was discussion end of September early, because we thought, I mean, given the timing, we wanted to try to do it while things actually, because we do expect the activity to increase in the community given that time of year, which usually our activity does prior to hibernation, and we think similarly, we think the numbers we might be able to beat our budget numbers. We actually did the budget on community process, so if that's something the council's okay with, then that's already in the works. We can just confirm. I don't know if Sean, you have if there's any further discussion since we had our meeting last week or not, or?
No, it's just the email gone out to the Human Bear Conflict Working Group, CO system, CO service and Once PC, just to confirm what their availability would be, end of September, October-ish. And then I believe we were just gonna reach back to council with those dates and see what works for council.
Is that sufficient for council?
Yeah, I think to start, I think we're looking for a broader engagement. Well, we'll see what that brings. I guess we'll see what that brings, and there may be a
Okay.
requirement after that for broader engagement that we take responsibility for.
So then what about my idea about research into what other communities are doing or hiring a professional to advise us? Or how does council feel about that? Or do we want to defer that for another session?
Councilor Roper?
I think every one of our ideas deserve some investigation to at least find out if it's feasible, possible, what have you. And each and every one of us have put something on the table tonight to address the situation. And I'd like to see every avenue explored. So whatever we have to do, not just for your idea, but for everyone's ideas. Because it's really going to be a Swiss cheese model where we have to have a few things in place to really fix the situation.
We're really back to problem solving mode, right? Where we're spitballing. And once you get some ideas, then you start really digging into it with the professional.
But we need a way to
I-
get further with these ideas.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the public if we hear back, because I might be completely wrong. It's happened before. You know, the public might come back and say, no, we're fine with coexistence of bears in the community. Yeah, but you know, I don't want to presuppose. I'm kind of there, but I don't want to presuppose that. Right? So we have the meeting, and then from there we start brainstorming, you know, some of these ideas that we've got, and we look into getting more resources to help us. Councilor Dickey.
I just think there's what are the options? There's basically three options for the bears, is you take them out, you trap them, or you learn to live with them. There's really three options. So I think engaging, saying, you know, what do you guys want to do about the bears? What are the issues you've had with the bears? Really give us one of the options that you want us to carry out. Because I'm all for hiring the hunter, because these bears are garbage bears and they're raising garbage bears. And I know there's many people out there that may disagree, but what's the difference between taking out a nuisance bear and a nuisance beaver? They trap beavers all the time. They hire hunters to trap beavers if they're causing a problem. So I don't know what the difference is. So I think the reality is we have three options. Take them out, learn to live with them, or trap them and relocate them. Education and awareness, yes, because I was sitting with a lady that cleaned fish, stuck the fish guts in the garbage can. I'm like, what? Rule 1, it goes back in the water or in the river or in the ocean. That's the way you deal with fish guts. You don't put them in the garbage can to rot for 3 days at 30 degrees above. So education and awareness is everything. So I think we continue with some of the bear community initiatives, but answer the three questions. What do you want done with those nuisance bears? That's the harsh reality. So
And unfortunately. Okay. Does
I'm just
anybody
trying
else
draw-
want to do it?
Yeah. let's-
Okay, unless, Counselor Dickey, unfortunately, the province, tells us what we can and what we can't do in terms of dispatching bears, so that's our problem.
All right, I think we've given direction with respect to this meeting. Sounds like staff was already on it. So is there anything else you need from us on this? I mean, this is a long-term discussion, right? We're not going to solve it tonight.
No, we're good with the meeting. If there's,
Right.
in the absence of any other direction, we'll go with that and then we can circle back. I think if we were looking at anything else to do outside of what we're currently doing, we would definitely need external resources to help us, especially even from an expertise perspective, because we're not resident experts. We understand the issues and concerns. We're working as a committee, but at the same time, what we can or can't do, what's legal, not legal, and what are some options. I mean, besides doing some research to see what some best practices are in other organizations, but outside of that would be seeing what's out there or who's out there that can provide assistance for us as an organization in terms of what we, I guess, legally can do and what would be, appropriate, makes sense to this community. We don't have that background or expertise.
Especially when there seems to be a difference in the approach around the province, right? Prince George, 21 bears in 1 month. Yeah. All right, let's move on then to administration report 4323, which was deferred from August the 14th. This is discussion on the electric vehicle. There was no expectation that staff would bring back anything but the original report. Two of our counselors were away when we had that discussion. I thought it was based on the fact that we weren't getting much consensus that there was an opportunity for us to defer that, go away, talk to our people, and then wait to see if Councillor Enox or Councillor Andrews had any further thoughts on the matter. And then we got this correspondence from BC Hydro on Friday, I believe, which kind of adds a new dimension to the whole thing. I think we went away not achieving any kind of consensus with respect to which piece of property in the community would be the most desirable, I guess, for this project. There were lots of different ideas. I think there was 5 of us here and 5 different ideas on what should happen. But there seemed to be a little bit of consensus once the staff brought it to our attention, that BC Hydro was in conversation with some other entities. All of a sudden, there seemed to be a little bit of consensus around the table that maybe that's the way we should go. But this piece of information that we got brings some more information to the table. I guess that I think originally Councillor Andrews had identified this particular piece of property. So I will turn it over with that background for the 2 that were here at the last meeting. I'll turn it over to staff for their thoughts with respect to where we are. Thank
I
you.
can speak to that.
Okay.
So yeah, the report as presented or provided on August 14th, those 2 options still remain valid. But BC Hydro has come back and we've asked them to reconsider that site. So it was included in the first package that was provided to council as one of the options. And BC Hydro did come back and indicated that they would be willing to contribute the costs for the development of the site, large enough for the EV charging station. It is in the downtown core area. It's municipal owned property that's currently not being used. Because it is in the downtown core area, there's an opportunity also, although BC Hydro hasn't offered, we could convert it into somewhat of a public space as well. So it doesn't just have to be an ugly parking lot. We could have canopies or benches or, other things to actually make it look like a public space. So it just doesn't have to look like a bland parking lot. I'm not sure what information you have, but if it's what I'm looking at, they are willing to cover the cost of development and asphalt on that site. So right now, the way it stands is, we've got the 3 sites to consider: Millennium Park, the east parking lot of the rec center, and now Airport Drive. And BC Hydro has also indicated that they are continuing conversation with primarily IGA.
Okay. Councilor Andrews.
So for this Airport Drive lot, all the costs that we thought we would have to bear before, BC Hydro will do, and then it's just the maintenance and upkeep that will be our cost in the future, as if with the other 2 sites.
BC Hydro will cover the cost of the site preparation as well as the asphalt. We would have to cover the cost of the curb let down.
Which would be approximately, do we know?
No, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
That Public Works didn't give me that. I'm just kidding. I'm not sure what it would cost. I'm
It's
sorry.
not significant, I don't think, in the grand scheme of the project.
If it's even required, because there is a bit of an entrance there already, but we'd have to do some prep in that area.
Other comments? Councilor Roper.
So are we still looking at 2 locations, 2 of the 3 options, or just the 1 location now?
This would be just the one then, if we went with the Airport Drive.
Great.
Councilor Enox.
Out of all the options we've had, I think this is best. Like you say, it's downtown. It's within walking distance to so many businesses. Good job. Nice.
Did I see your hand go up, Councilor Garvey?
So what about crossing then? Because most of the downtown shopping would be across Airport Drive, and there isn't a crosswalk or anything there. You'd have to walk down to the clinic, I guess.
Corner of Save on straight to.
Right, by the post office. Okay. So we wouldn't need another crosswalk.
Well, there's a sidewalk both sides there, so. You answered, I had one question, that was, would we still be able to use the rest of the lot for something else that we might, and you've answered that we could use the rest of the lot. We're not limited to just having 6 EV stations and a half paved parking lot. So
The only caution on this one is the increase in traffic in that area, given that there's outstanding action items from the Alaska Highway Transportation Corridor Study around airport, and then the increase that we're anticipating from McDonald's, at least temporarily. And now we're adding another feature in that same area. But we recognize that, we probably do need to pay attention about, to traffic in the next couple of years at least, and start planning for that as well.
Which would also include, from a safety perspective, Councilor Gruey's comment around our question regarding pedestrian safety and connectivity, which we would evaluate as part of that, because it's ongoing right now with some of the, because it'll be part of even the downtown revitalization piece. Of course.
all right, am I hearing consensus that this is the site? So will somebody make a motion that we authorize staff to negotiate with BC Hydro to convert this site to Councilor Enox, are you making that? Right.
Seconded.
Oh,
Sorry, can I ask that we include the PID? Because we don't have a civic address on that lot, so just as an identifier for the park property. So the PID is 023137649. Because we're essentially granting use of a park property.
yeah. So we authorize staff to negotiate with BC Hydro to use the PID of that property for EV charging stations. So that's moved by Councilor Enox. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Roper. Second by Councilor Roper. Is there any further discussion with respect to that? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Phew. Item number 9.3 is the development permit 2301 and administration report 4623. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The property located at 5331 50th Avenue South is intended to undergo some improvements, in fact, substantive improvement to update the ownership branding on the property as well as the aestheticness of the site. Some enhancements have triggered the development permit requirement. And the detailed information about those development permit requirements are provided in the report in regard to the building exterior, the renovation, and the gas fire canopy structure alteration. The applicant has also proposed some replacement signs and some of the new signs as well. However, all the proposed signages do not comply with the existing sign bylaw. So the request they have made is in excess of what the sign bylaw would permit. Yeah, and the approval of this development permit application would allow variance requested for the 3 of the additional fascia sign and a variance to the size of the fascia signs. And the last one would be the variance to the canopy underside separation distance for the under canopy signs. Thank you.
Questions from staff? Comments?
Will having a co-op stationed in Fort Nelson make it a little bit more farm?
Okay. What are council's wishes? Councilor Souls?
I'm in favor of whatever the recommendation said. That development permit application DP 2301 be approved for the purpose alteration to the structure, building exterior renovations and signage at 5331 50th Avenue South, legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 1586, PRD Plan 17770.
Moved. Second by Councilor Roper. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion with the fire department with respect to the size of the canopy and the potential for fighting fires, gas fires? Was there any discussion? Or whether or not it would be a concern for them or not? Did we talk?
Like the proposed alterations of bringing it back in.
And I think the size of it's quite a bit bigger too.
I thought they were making it smaller just to
Oh,
avoid
yeah.
trucks hitting it.
Okay.
Because the
That's what I
trucks
read.
keep hitting it.
I got
Yeah.
myself, I got
Over and
myself.
over.
All right, I got myself. I'm sorry, but I guess there's no problem then with the fire department. We didn't run this by them at all. No need to.
I don't know if we have or not, but we can follow up and we can check. Okay.
Okay, so we're referral one. Okay, I'm satisfied. Good. That's the only question I had. It's the only question I had. Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I lost myself. All right. Thank you. Admin report 4723, recruitment and retention, education, training, incentive evaluation. This is report for information. Is there any questions for staff? I think essentially their plan is to follow through with the original plan, right? With respect to doing a report on the READY program. And you're just informing us that you're moving ahead with that. Okay.
And just as a heads up, the interviews will be undertaken as part of that project. So some of you may be contacted, and as well as many of the, if not all of the READY recipients. So if you get a friendly phone call, don't be surprised.
Okay. Thank you. Correspondence. So we have one letter, 3 council information packages.
Sir, there was an addendum of public notice bylaw 220. 9.5 on the agenda. It might be in an addition package there. Did you get an addition package? It may have been placed in your mailbox
I
and
missed
not
it.
on your desk.
So I missed it.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Okay. Right. Okay. What's the number on it? 9.5. So the report is draft NRM public notice bylaw number 220, 2023. Staff would like to speak to that.
You wrote it. You don't have a mic?
Not to take the wind out of Stacy's sails. She did write the report, but she's unmiked over in the corner, so. As we all know, the Fort Nelson News announced their imminent closure with their last edition being September 13th. And when we read of the news, we started to reach out to determine how we might meet our legislative requirements for public notice. So the charter requires for many of the things that we do that public notice be posted in 2 consecutive editions of a weekly newspaper that meets a local audience, reaches a local audience. So we made some calls to some of the regional publications, and the jury was still out in terms of whether or not they may distribute to Fort Nelson. So reading further in the charter, local governments are permitted to pass a bylaw that describes how they may provide alternate public notice. And some of the examples out there are by utilizing their online means. So we're proposing the bylaw for your consideration to meet that minimum kind of default public notice requirement, but recognizing, of course, that online distribution doesn't reach everybody. And there will be certain demographics that need to be communicated with in different ways. So at minimum, we would post in our public notice place, which is out front on our bulletin boards. Should the bylaw proceed, it would include legislated public notice appear on our website and our Facebook page. And then depending on the situation, we would employ other means. So that might be direct mailings. So using flyers and mailboxes. It might mean using our utility bills, which we already leverage from time to time to make things known. Posters, signage, things like that. So we endeavor always the best we can, but obviously with the loss of our local newspaper, we needed some kind of means to get those things out and meet our legislative requirements.
Council's thoughts? Councilor Andrews?
It's sad to see a business go. Thanks for thinking of protecting us with our bylaws. Appreciate that. Our Bear Pit newsletter, how many people does that go out with?
I think we have 40 subscribers.
Not quite the community.
Not quite not quite the distribution list we'd hope for. And so I should mention that we intend to purchase a substantial portion of advertising in the September 13th edition to let people know how we plan to, what we plan to use for public notice. And the Bear Pit is one of those means. So we'd like to make it known how we currently communicate so that maybe we increase our subscription rate to the Bear Pit, and hopefully get people subscribing to our news feed online and following our Facebook page and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
It's, I did read this, by the way. This just wasn't in my paper, so I read it electronically. And it's good that there's 2 sources, you know, that you can do on the internet, but it's also great that we've provided that ability to post it in many other different places. And so depending on the issue that you need to get information out, helps you decide where you're going to do it. So I thought that was a good spot. Is there any other comments? Good thing to have there, Councilor Roper.
Just on the topic of final advertising, I think we owe a debt of thanks to the Fort Nelson News for serving this community for 64 years, and 50 of those with Judith Kenyon, who really worked hard, and I know put her own resources into the paper to keep it going for as long as she did. So I would like to also see maybe a thank you in there from.
Can I
the
get
council.
you to hold that thought while we deal with the bylaw?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that's worthy discussion
My
on
apologies.
on its own. That's okay. So there's 3 readings there. Would anybody like to make that recommendation? Moved by Counselor Gerwing that we authorize first, second, and third reading of, I'll have it in front of me again, the bylaw. Yeah, the number, please.
Okay, that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Public Notice Bylaw number 220/2023 be given first, second, and third readings.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Gerwing, seconded by Counselor Souls. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, Counselor Roper, I think your idea of thanking the Kenyon family and the business of the Alaska Highway News is did I say I'm sorry. I said the Fort Nelson News, Alaska Highway News has been on my mouth for 30 years, so I'm sorry about that. The Fort Nelson News, that business has been a very important business. I remember when I was a kid, it was probably the first newspaper I ever read when I was a child living in this community. I know that the family has done amazing work in the community. Name the think of anything that's happened in this town and there's a name from that family that's probably attached to it in some little way. And I think if we're going to take some advertising, I agree that we should put some note of thanks to the family and to the business and the fact that we're losing, from a journalism perspective, we're losing a huge resource in our community. So I'd like to see us authorize staff to spend a little time and effort pulling together some words of thanks to go into the final newspaper. So I'll make that recommendation myself. Is there a seconder?
I'd second that.
Is there any further comments or anything that people would like to see go in that for staffs? Sure.
Just if we wanted an addition and can't think of it now, what
yeah.
kind of timeline would we have to report that in?
It's usually that we submit the Friday prior to the paper's publication.
So before this Friday. Yeah. Good. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Now we're at 10. For information, we have at NRM letters to North River Midstream. We have council information package of August 16th, August 23rd, August 30th. And that's all we have for information. A motion to receive those for information, please. Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Souls. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 10.5 for discussion is a letter from MLA Dan Davies, re the community forest concerns. I'll put that on the floor for any comments that anybody has to say about that letter.
I guess I'll go first. Many of the statements in here I've heard from elsewhere in the community, so I don't think these findings are just coming from one particular source, but I think there's rather a consensus that there is an issue, and of course with such a new community forest, I think we all knew there'd be some growing pains. So I mean, I would be committed to working with Chief and Council and the Community Forest Corporation to work through some of these issues and address them the best that we can, so that the community can really get the best out of the community forest. I don't think the community is getting the very best that it's the intentions of the community forest. I don't think are the benefits aren't being reaped by the community as a whole.
Okay. Councillor Andrews?
I think this letter just further pushes the idea that we need to meet with our partners. And I think we definitely need to sit down and discuss this letter and other things that we've been hearing. It's been a while since we've sat down with our partners about the community forest. And I think this letter and other topics should definitely be on there as soon as we can get a meeting, and then we can hopefully see where we can go from there.
I have
Councillor
concerns because I've been on council for 11 months and have yet to meet with them, except in camera with the previous manager. So, you know, if we're going to be partners, partners need to know finances, strategic plans, cutting permits, hiring staff. Like there needs to be some sort of update, which I don't recall there ever being a quarterly update, a semi-annual update. So I think somewhere in the agreement, it must say that we're required to meet. So not only are we failing the community by not enforcing that, but the nation is also failing by not reporting to their membership.
Any other comments?
I think that there's definitely, we talked about growing pains when we started, when you establish something that's new and you realize that there can be growing pains. I think that growing pains come to when to councils as well, our council and FNFN council, in the sense of we laid out the parameters and what the mode of operation would be, what the priorities of the community forest would be when we started, and revisiting those is probably great, but it does strike me strange that one of our operational ideas is that community forest should make money for the community, and then this letter actually tells us that we shouldn't make money for the community. And I think it's really strange to have that kind of a response from the MLA. I do know, though, I'm not unaware of the history of Fort Nelson and its forest industry. And as much as we look back and think that there was a great heyday of success in the early stages in the era of Takima and FNFI and Almanica Enterprises and the chopstick plant and so on, there was up until 1995, which is a very long time, the early stages of all that milling, we were in a subsidized form of stumpage where we received back from the Crown a lot more than was actually given to the Crown and so on. And so the issues of subsidizing forestry here and the lower cost of operating, I mean, the higher cost of operating due to where we are, was recognized even in provincial policy as to Fort Nelson and what was there. Having said that, and just one other factor in relation to that, I mean, the idea of reviewing how benefit from the community forest flows to the community, of how monetary benefit flows to the community, or costing of logs for starting up industry in the local community. We are at a disadvantage to the larger forest industry overall. And I say that because no matter what volume of logs are desired from our area by the major players in the province, they can pay more for them because it's a very small portion of their wood intake. They can pay an exponential higher price for logs coming from this area, and it can prevent local competition from happening. And that's something to guard against. I can't find any evidence of that having happened since the community forest has been working. And so I'm open to the idea of, as a partner, revisiting the terms of reference for this, but it's more important, as you mentioned, that we start having some meetings together with our partners to really reestablish a vision for the community forest, because it has way more potential than what we are seeing from it at this point.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I did have a conversation with the MLA. I think some of the discussion that we have, I'll say for an in-camera meeting with respect to discussions between the community and the MLA. So I'll report on that when we have the closed part of the meeting. Okay. If nothing else, we will move to the addition. The firefighters Councillor Andrews.
I was contacted by Jeannie Kenaway from the Firefighters Association locally. She would like me to share a save the date. On September 10th is a day that we remember the fallen firefighters that lost their lives in the line of duty. This year at 11 a.m., we will be hosting a march from the rec center to the Gary Griffin Memorial Park. We'd like to include all leaders in our community because when there is a loss of emergency services personnel, whether they are firefighters, RCMP, or paramedics, we all suffer the loss. Once we reach the park, there will be some speeches followed by a family barbecue. The whole community is invited, and she was hoping to see all, if not some of council.
I certainly intend to walk and participate that day. So I hope some of you will join us. I think it'll be a great opportunity. New business items, is there any new business? No, from staff? No. The council meeting 11.2, so we're just talking about meeting with our partners, and certainly one of our biggest partners is the Port Nelson First Nation. So I think they're looking for confirmation of a date, is that correct? So September 25th.
We don't have a time at this point, but just looking for availability and confirmation on that date.
I suspect there will be some significant topic items for us to discuss. So, you know, I don't think it can be handled over a breakfast meeting. I'm suspecting at least half a day, if not a full day. Is there any conflicts? Okay. Okay.
I currently have no conflict.
If everybody could get back to staff as soon as possible so that we can get this meeting set up, that would be awesome. Standing items, are there any councillor reports? Councillor, you next.
Before I headed out on holidays, we had a TAC meeting, but it was just a little short discussion because we had lack of quorum that night. I've got a museum update. The museum was open from May 15th until September 3rd. They hired 6 summer students and 4 full-time students that were grant funded either by Canada Summer Jobs or Young Canada Works. The 2 part-time were funded by the Historical Society itself. This year, 4,891 people came through the doors compared to 4,926 the year before, a difference of 35 people. Smoke continued to plague the numbers again. Having said that, the admission fee increased by quite a bit over 2022. The board did a review at the beginning of the year, and the rates this year were increased. Decision to increase was based on the overall cost of business going up. The insurance premium alone is a quarter of their budget. The insurance policy is currently under review right now. Souvenir sales were also up considerably. Older travelers just don't travel well in the smoke, and they don't come. Those that did spend a lot on souvenirs. The museum is interested in seeing the overall tourism numbers in BC to see how that reflects compared to them. The traveling exhibit, Our Climate Quest, brought many locals into the museum over the time period it was here. It was very well attended, and the feedback was very positive. Our Living Languages was not as popular, but the exhibit will be open for the street festival this coming weekend. So if any of you haven't seen it, it's a $2 admission. The curator had hoped to add some local content to this exhibit, but even though she tried reaching out to FNFN multiple times and talked to some of the actual members directly, it just couldn't happen. The staff has spent the last 2 years tracking visitors and the times that they visit. There'll be likely some changes to the operating hours next season based on that tracking. It was a summer full of housekeeping and little projects. Sadly, they did not finish all of them as the smoke did affect the staff's ability to work outside. The porch on the Hudson Bay House and the Anglican Church were repainted, as was the door to the artist cabin, which they're now going to call the chamber cabin from here on in. At some point in the future, it'll become a display on its own. The skirting was constructed around the Northwest Tell building that they'd had moved last year. 2 windows were replaced, one in the trapper's cabin and one in the Bartlett house. The art bench that was out front of the museum main entrance was rotting, so they've taken it down and removed it. The post office finally got a new door thanks to Greg Buck, who reused one of the old wooden bathroom doors. The museum did a fair amount of fire safe and bear safe stuff around the property. Older trees were removed, the forest floor around the property was all trimmed, raked, and any rotting wood was removed. And then they turned four or five garbage cans that are permanently in the ground on the property into flower planters. Less garbage to remove each day at the end of the night for the kids. The property is starting to look great between the auction, ongoing junk, and the debris removal. There's an incredible amount of unused space now. The museum's open Saturday and Sunday for the street festival, closed again until December when it reopens for Christmas. Planning is ongoing to get the museum open for the weekend starting in the new year. More information will follow. And the AGM will be late November or early December, and we'll all be invited. And I'd like you all to come down to the museum on Saturday for the show and shine. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Enoch. Are there any other reports? I guess then I will just report that the last council meeting, I had reported that I attended the Fort Nelson First Nation celebration, and that was a great time. And this past couple of weeks, and just it's all blurring together on me now, but I attended the Prophet River Treaty Days, which was went down there Friday and Saturday. Anybody who's ever worried about me beating them in a game of bingo, won't ever worry about that. I found out that my bingo skills are pretty limited, but it was a great time. It was a great time down there. We had some good laughs. It's always good around the fire at Moose Camp to connect with people that you haven't seen for a long time and people you've never met before. It just seems like people sitting around a fire, you know, talking about hunting and talking about things that are happening in a community is just a great place to relax and people open up. And I really find it enjoyable. So it was a great time down there, and I appreciate the invitation that they gave me to go down there. Okay, if there's no other council reports, there's no business outstanding, we come to notice of motion. So I have 3, I think, the one that's on here and 2 that would like to be brought up tonight. So for the first one, let's 13.1, let's talk about the ride share services and investigating the requirements for ride share. Councilor
Great.
Roper?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I mean, the community is without our transportation taxi service heading into winter. We really need something sooner than later. My understanding is that there's 2 components to having ride shares come into your community. There's a bylaw component on our end to open the doors, and then there's a component on the behalf of the ride share company for them to select the community to come in and start servicing. So I figure we can get a head start on the bylaw component. We might not be able to, get this horse to drink, but we can at least take it to the water and do our due diligence here. So I think it's really important that we start on that right away.
Okay, staff, can you give us an update with respect to the transportation study? And because we had a request from a company, I'm just forgetting their name, to potentially start a ride sharing service here, and we deferred it to the transportation study that we funded in the budget this year. Can staff give us an update where that potentially is?
I don't know exactly where that particular grant.
So I think that the company that you may be referring to is Coastal Rideshare.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we do have information on that, which we can bring back to council for the next meeting. So the transportation study, we were just successful in obtaining $150,000 grant for the Complete Communities grant. So our intent is to take the, if you remember in the budget process, the transportation project along with the housing needs assessment, community needs assessment, combining that into one project under the Complete Communities umbrella. So myself, Hillary, and Rada will be meeting on September 12th to go through that, to see what that looks like, and we'd be more than happy to bring that to back to council, just to give you a bit of an update on what we're contemplating with that grant opportunity and what that would look like in relation to transportation.
Was ride sharing ride sharing a topic within that study? Was the intent to look at that, or was it mainly regional transportation, like between communities?
No, that one was specific to local.
Okay,
It was local transportation solutions. So we wanted to really look at those local solutions and have somebody kind of come up with some creative ideas of what would work in our community, and anything and all things being open, to consider, including rideshare.
right. And so remind me of the timeline for the completion of that. Ish.
Well,
And the only reason I say that is whether or not we need to hive that off to deal with the potential,
right.
the motion that's coming.
So
forward.
we include it in the Complete Communities. We are required to have that project complete within 1 year, and we were just awarded. So it would have to be essentially done by next fall.
Right. So not likely to have it done before the council's concerned about getting it done this winter.
Right. But we can look into, so in addition to providing council with a bit of an update on, where we land with that project and what we're looking at, we can also bring back information around that coastal ride share, so that you just a bit of a refresh on, what the potential is in that regard.
Yeah, and I think if it is a question of a bylaw being put in place, I think having that bylaw put in place even before the results of that report come in next fall or whenever it arrives, I think that would just elevate the report, and get us ready to actually move on something. So I think I'm quite sure it's just a bylaw that we need to start with. I think that's a very simple thing to do for us. And I think it'd be worth starting that sooner than later.
Okay, so can we give you direction then with respect to bringing the report that you talked about, and then anything with respect to coastal, right? Thank you, to the next meeting. Thank you. And then council can decide whether they want to hive it off and deal with it, or go ahead with the bylaw, or whether we want to wait, which sounds like it might be. Okay, good. Thank you. The next notice of motion, so that notice of motion will come forward again next, right? Because there may or may not be, well, I guess it'll come forward as a report. So it'll come off the notice of motion, come forward as a report. Thanks.
Well, I guess the motion was to get information. If we're getting the information, then maybe the motion is not.
Yeah, it's not necessary, but we have a discussion with respect to getting that information coming forward.
Okay,
So-
very good.
So it was, yeah, the motion, I guess, will be whether to hive it off or whether to start, the report will drive another motion.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Enox has a motion that he'd like to start on. Lord.
I'll try to make it fast. I was long-winded a little bit. So sadly, the Northern BC Tourism Summit has been postponed to 2024. I was really disappointed to hear that when I got back. I understand it's the fire situation in BC as to why people weren't signing up to go. I spent some time this past month down in Arizona with my mom playing tourist. Even though I was on vacation, seeing the sights, I spent quite a bit of time talking to everybody about the NRM when we were asked where we were from, because apparently we have accents. My mother was patient, as she knows my love for our town and area is strong. And some of the conversations lasted 45 minutes or longer, usually ending up with me pulling my phone out to show people pictures. During our travels, I came across an amazing sports vacation and RV show. When we travel, we're kind of gypsies. We'll drive 2-3 hours here and then back. And I know the NRM has a partnership in the co-op, and there's an opportunity to travel to 4 trade shows throughout the year. However, I was advised by Ms. Vandersteen that I could be an attendee, but not be able to be an exhibitor, as there's only 4 to a booth and they frown upon counselors attending in that capacity. This trade show is in Quartzsite, which is 2 hours outside of Phoenix. It's the biggest show in the US. It runs January 20th to the 28th. And this coming 2024 is the 40th anniversary. And the people that we were talking to actually when we were in Quartzsite said it's going to be bigger than any previous show that they've ever had, being the 40th anniversary. It's a 7-day show, open 9 to 5, and they have up to 150,000 people come through in that week. Oh, what else do we have here? They have everyone from RV dealerships, destination exhibits to bus tour companies as exhibitors. I think this would be an incredible opportunity to showcase the Northern Rockies. Glenda at Triple G told me that they had over 30 caravans this past summer, and getting just that contact information from those bus tour companies and RV, tour companies to feed them information when the annual celebration's going on, when there's things going on in our area, they might spend it in, a night or two. So that, I think that would be a great thing to get.
Motion for,
I would love to go and be able to present and showcase the Northern Rockies.
so you're looking for staff to come forward with a report with respect to costs and benefits for that? Be prepared to work with the staff to get them the information that they need.
Absolutely.
Staff, do you have the manpower to bring a report at the next meeting? Yeah. Yes?
Thanks, Lisa.
We have exhibited tasks, so I don't think it's gonna be.
Oh, really? Okay,
So maybe we can dig out some of that old information now.
okay.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Can I just ask a question around why counselors are not allowed to go to? Sorry, frowned upon, why would, because we used
I
to
don't know.
always have council people, you've gone and other council people have gone, so is that something new?
It's linked to the partnership, and the challenge is you're only gonna have so many people. And because if everyone wanted to bring counselors, you wouldn't have enough room to. So it's, because I actually believe we actually had a counselor attend before. Specific to the partnership we have with the other communities, right? So.
Right, so that's specific to that,
Yes.
which
yes.
is different than this court side thing, or do they go to that court?
No.
Okay.
No, I was just asking the question
Yeah.
about that partnership.
Yeah.
like, so-
Yeah.
So it's nothing against counselors. It's the physical size and the ability to have, they can't accommodate everyone, so you couldn't pick and choose, right? So
Right.
basically it's, I think 4 staffers, I think 4 in total. 4 people from 7 communities. Right, so
Well, is that partnership then serving the needs for us, like,
well,
okay.
The last one I attended, I went and attended one in Calgary with the group, with the co-op, and they gave us schedules and stuff. So I spent more of my time outside of the booth. Like as far as council going, I didn't feel, besides me going there and giving area specific information, that nobody could answer about our area. Then like, that's where my benefit came. But with the schedule, I didn't get a lot of time in the booth per se. So I just kind of hung around and poached and gave information. So I didn't feel that the people there were representing the Northern Rockies to the fullest, but also they don't live here. So to have somebody who lives here to advocate for it is essential. But when it's a partnership group, I understand we're getting a really good deal for a lot of advertising.
and the intent is, and that was some of the challenges too, I think, with the feedback, if you had some counselor, because the intent there with that partnership in the region. Right, and Northern Rockies is a part of it, but so are the other areas. And the intent if someone comes to the region, they're passing through. So it was just trying to create that balance. I mean, it's a shared resource. And that's just been the communication that we've received back from the group in terms of what the intent is and the reason why they, I don't know if it's frowned upon per se, it's more around just how do you accommodate it all. And of course, to your point, Counselor Andrews, I mean, if you're a counselor and you have passion for your area, then you could kind of be trumping the other discussions that are going on around that region, right? So there's a bit of an agreement in terms of, there's a bit of an agreement within the group in terms of how they present the information for a regional perspective, because it's a shared debt. Right, compared to paying for a specific trip to go down, where you have council, which we've done in the past, Port Sight's an example of one we've done in the past, we are literally beating the drum for them.
Right. So we take it on that we do the project on our own in away from what the cops are. Okay. Does that answer your question? I don't like it. It answered your question. Okay, good. Okay, so that report will come back at the next council meeting.
So,
Go ahead.
so I just need some clarification. So is that a notice of motion to be considered at the coming council meeting, or is council prepared to vote on that tonight?
No, I think that's coming at the next council meeting when you bring forward a report, because I didn't know that you've been in court
Oh.
side, so there's probably lots of information there about the pros and cons of attending, so
Okay.
that council can make an informed decision.
Okay,
And the costs, yeah.
okay.
What it cost us the last time, what the expected costs are coming up this time. So that'll be report, and the motion may be whether to attend or not attend at the next meeting. Okay. 13.3, notice of motion from Councillor Gurley.
So I was thinking this week that the Parade of Lights, which community enjoys, was first started by Fort Nelson Family Development Society. They ran it for a couple of years and then had to give it up for various reasons. And Dave Dominic has run it the last 2 years, but I believe he is no longer in the community. So I would hate for this year to go by without a Parade of Lights. So I'm asking council to consider having the NRM host the Parade of Lights this year.
So that will be the motion. So I think we're looking for costs, a report from staff that talks about what that cost would be for us to take that project on.
Okay.
That's what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the next meeting, the request to actually make the decision based off the report.
Yep.
Councilor Andrews?
Would you be interested in looking for partnerships to host together?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I just want to see it happen in the community. So if there is another organization that is interested in taking it on, then I mean, that would be great, but I don't know that there is. So I just want to see it continue.
Can you remind me of the normal dates of it? Is it in December?
It is in December, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not
So
sure.
there's 3 or 4 months to.
Yeah,
sort of
early
get-
December.
to-
Yeah.
to maybe even put out a call for somebody else,
Yeah.
a partner. Whatever. Okay, good. Clear on that? Good, thank you. All right. Yeah. You guys are gonna quit coming to these because we just create work for you. Is there any, the public or media, have any questions? Anybody online? Okay, we're good there. Resolution to move into a closed meeting to discuss section 91B of the community charter, personal information about identifiable individuals who may be considered for municipal board. Moved by Councillor Roper, second by Councillor Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll recess and